Amazing. Thank you so much. So happy to be here. A huge fan of the work that you're doing, and yeah, honored that you asked me to join today and share a few things that hopefully will be valuable for all the folks that have joined. Looking forward to getting everyone's feedback and also having a discussion after sharing a few things. You're asking me to present a few things, but again, we're going to have plenty of time for discussion afterwards. So what we're going to cover today is on how building large language model powered products is substantially different than building traditional products, and how product leaders need to change the way they manage their teams, manage their strategy, manage their design, and manage their way of thinking when it comes to building these types of products. And even though a lot of things that we are talking about are specifically about large language models, a lot of this also does apply to large vision models, LVMs, and other types of generative AI products that, because of their non-deterministic nature, are meaningfully different than deterministic products that a lot of us as product leaders used to manage. Now, unfortunately, some of our product leaders who got too excited about large language models and they're pushed by the executives or the teams to just ship something so that they're not falling behind, ended up really building bad products, partly because of lack of expertise and data science expertise and product management expertise, but partly also because of the fact that they didn't really change their way of thinking and mindset when it came to building these types of products. And tons of examples that you might have seen on Twitter or X and other platforms that kind of share these really terrible experiences that are created where the models started hallucinating or providing wrong information or just simply being and not useful to the users and not being valuable and creating a lot of frustration. And most recently, Air Canada, for those of you joining from Toronto, I know you're from Canada, you probably have heard this recently about a month ago, 2 months ago in February, March, Air Canada had to honor their refund policy that was invented by their chatbot and large language model. And they ended up quietly killing that costly chatbot support and firing some of the team members on that team. And again, we want to make sure that we avoid those kind of situations. But again, building products, these LLM-powered products, in a way that follows the right practices. Now, what we're going to cover quickly, just going to talk about what it means to create a rock-solid product strategy for large language models, how we can design them in a way that their LLM and large language model native user experiences, and how do we ultimately, as product leaders, we can craft product requirement documents for these types of large language model powered functionalities, capabilities, and features that are non-deterministic. So let's talk about first, how do we start with a strategy? How is creating a great AI product strategy and a large language model powered product strategy looks like? So what's happening with a lot of the products that ended up with a not so great product strategy for the large language model product was lack of product vision, lack of insights, and just jumping to the solution, jumping to a text-based solution and just piggybacking on OpenAI's API and building the large language model experience, thinking that will be just valuable on its own. Now, what I want to share with you is a great example and a case study of a company that did this really, really well, and how they followed this product strategy model that I'm sharing with you, which starts with a product vision, a clear set of product and market insights, that then identifies the challenges facing the team that they need to overcome, the approaches that they need to take to overcome those challenges, and then an accountability and a North Star metric to use to measure the progress towards that vision. So the example I want to share with you is from a company called Nuwan. They used to be called Travel body, and they kind of went through some rebranding, and now it's called Nuwan. I'm going to play this video for you so you can quickly see what this generative AI tool that I built is, and I'm going to share with you how they started the development of this product.
I mean, just confirming that we are not supposed to hear anything, right?
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Awesome. So now I just want to kind of break down what you saw with Nuwan and that breakdown of the generative AI tool. So they didn't start with saying that we need to have a large language model product, or we need to have a way of just brute forcing it into our product. It started with a clear product vision of where do we want to be? And for them, it was really about becoming the leading expense management company by redefining the expense management experience for CFOs and for travel admins. And they wanted to basically get to a way that companies can get away from this tedious manual data analysis and have a smarter, faster, and more efficient way of improving the bottom line. And they relied on a sort of product and market insights, knowing that a significant cost for organizations today is around their travel expenses. And they can have more insights available to these companies that helps them with the cost savings. Then they got very clear on the challenges that they had to focus on, right? Because if we don't start with this and start with the solutions, it's so easy to fall in love with the solution and not fall in love with the problem that we are trying to solve. So what they did, and they followed the right order, was, what are the challenges that we are seeing today? They noticed that today the biggest challenges facing the customers is lack of visibility into travel spend, non-compliance, inefficient bookings, benchmarking travel spend without revealing sensitive data that the customers are asking for, and also having difficulty predicting future travel costs. So then, knowing these are the challenges that they had to tackle, then it became a lot more clear on how large language models could or could not help them overcome these challenges. So what they figured is that the generative AI tool can effectively analyze travel spend and craft suggestions for savings. It can effectively summarize travel spend by category. It can analyze travel spend and compare it to the company policy, and rely on the data available and retrieval of that data to do cross-referencing. It can effectively analyze spend on hotels and flights and suggest ways to improve. And then this became a valuable product because it was effectively addressing the challenges that the customers were facing. And then ultimately, they said, we need to make sure this is actually valuable, and we need to have an accountability metric in place. So what they set as their accountability metric and the North Star metric was the percentage increase in efficient travel spend through their recommendations. They said that our tool is only valuable if we can effectively help our customers to become more efficient when it comes to travel spend. And then they use a set of proxy metrics and input metrics like percentage of repeat users who engage each month, or number of daily active users interacting with their generative AI tool to have those input metrics. But they define these clear accountability metrics to measure their value creation for the customers. And ultimately, what we want as product leaders is making sure that when they're being pressured by executives to come up with an AI strategy, no matter what, and without a clear vision, to bring it back to this kind of framework and work with our executive teams to make sure that we are identifying what are we trying to accomplish? What kind of mode are we trying to create? Are we trying to create a defense mode and build a kind of a mode around our existing offerings and the existing data that we have? Or are we trying to monetize a specific functionality and offense play, which was the case for Novan, because the generative AI tool I shared with you is something that you can get access to as a CFO or a travel admin for an additional cost, which is part of the enterprise plan. But again, it's really important to have these conversations and define those before jumping to our product tactics. Now, the second thing, which again, you'll have time to discuss more, is around designing LLM native user experiences. And right now, a lot of you have played around with large language model products. You have noticed that these products typically today face two important user experience challenges. Number one, very limited sometimes knowledge around the work that they're doing without, fine-tuning or without providing specific documents that we need for retrieval. Sometimes it can struggle to provide accurate information and also be efficient. And number two, that kind of plain text and markdown only responses that can be unengaging and limited or very similar to our competitors. Now, most recently, about I believe 2 months ago, Versal came up with their AI SDK 3.0 that it has completely changed this experience and what we can do with it. Can you still see my screen? I just switched to my demo app, Versal app, demo app. Can everyone see that? Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Great. So here I can say what are the trending stocks. And this is built on ChatGPT and OpenAI's API. And here I'm seeing the dummy data, it's not real data. But let's say I'm interested in Apple. I want to learn more about Apple. So now I click on Apple instead of again typing at that ChatGPT experience or a Gemini experience. I'm actually interacting with these components that can be custom built. And now I want to know what happened here between this time frame and this time frame. I'm just dragging it again instead of typing, and I just can say what happened here. So now what it's going to happen, it's going to tell me the news or things that happened that impacted Apple stock during that time. Now I can say buy me some. And what it knows is that I want to buy some Apple stock, right? So now again, it allows me this interactive component that's been built that allows me to go through and purchase. It's not actually going to do it. It's dummy data, but you can set it up so it's connected to your API to do that transaction as well. And this is what I mean. This is the future of building user experiences for large language model products that are not just what we see on ChatGPT. It's not just markdown only. It's not just plain text. It can really go beyond, above and beyond what we've seen with these products. And again, I just did the demo for you. I had a video in case something did go wrong with my demo, so I could play the video for you. But that's basically what I mean by what we can create with this. And the goal of it is to build trust. Right. Right now, with the experience I was sharing with you, the goal here is to build trust and to create an intuitive and a great user experience that our products users and customers can enjoy interacting with, and they can trust the data that they see. Right. So a lot of these, like what you see here built, when I said what happened here, there are a lot of sources added here. So as a user, as a customer, when I'm looking at it, I can verify the source of that information, where it was retrieved from, where it was summarized from, so that we can build trust with every interaction within our product. And the reason that's really important is that with a lot of large language model products and startups that have been advising and helping is that they start losing a lot of their users and customers because they start losing trust and they end up churning. They start using their product. They're like, oh, how does this product work? They try to figure it out. And then they think they've start getting it and using it, but then they end up giving up. And they look at the output of our model. They think it's totally made up, and the output is so bad, and they like just give up on our product. And what we want to do instead is over time build trust. We want to make sure that when they sign up, the onboarding experience builds that trust. We help them and guide them to understand capabilities, what they can use the product for. So in this case, for example, when you load the experience, I know that these are some of the prompts that I can run right around for this specific applications for specific cryptocurrency or for specific stocks. I can look at the trends. I can do a transaction. I can buy them. I can look at the trends and data and news around them. But it's a great starting point, right? So to guide the user. And then trust and verify, right? When the outputs are generated, it's really important for the user to be able to look at the data and be able to verify where the information was retrieved from. And ultimately, there can be a lot of biases built into these experiences, and it's important to make sure that the output is high quality and over time to check for these biases. And we'll talk more about that shortly. And then ultimately, these large language models fail because they do fail as any other non-deterministic system. We need to make sure there's a safe landing in place. So when it doesn't quite work, the product's still helpful or provides its support or resources as a way of getting the user to still be able to move forward rather than kind of a dead end. With Trust and Verify, BART is a great example. I highly recommend you to play around with it. It's now called Gemini. Gemini has done a great job with this. So you can kind of look at that as a great example on how they provide resources and provide references to the information generate. For failing gracefully, Google Docs, the Copilot does a great job for that. When it comes to when it doesn't work, it provides you low quality answers, or the output is not great. It gives you the opportunity to modify it or to do it again and recreate it. For guided onboarding, a lot of you have seen this already. ChatGPT does a really good job with this. A great example of how we can do that for a great user experience. UISART does also a good job for guided prompting. So we have this kind of structured input that helps you to be able to generate your project and be able to quickly get going. Notion AI, their Q&A function is a great example that you can look at for safe landing and how they do this really well. When their RAG fails or the information that's provided is not accurate, the Notion links still provide valuable information to the user. And that's what I mean by that safe landing, which is an important part of building trust with our users. So if you'd like to check out a great example, Notion AI Q&A function does a really good job with that. And with double checking for bias, again, a classic example from Midjourney, like any non-deterministic system, when you tried this, when you do this with your model, for example, when you search for, when your prompt is a teacher, you get a lot of white women, and for professors, you get a lot of older white men. And it's an example of bias, which as product leaders, we need to check for them when we're using AI-generated assets and making sure that our product is not producing biased outputs. And when it does, we have a way of mitigating it and addressing it. So these 6 best practices are essential for large language models. If we do them effectively, it can help us to be able to build trust with our users. And 2023 was the year of everyone jumping on building large language model products. 2024 is all about building trust with these large language model products and getting to a point that our users and our customers feel comfortable relying on them for working and getting things done. The last thing I want to share with you real quickly is on crafting a PRD for LLM-powered products and non-deterministic products, which is another component of product management that's very different than traditional product management. So the reason we need a new product requirement document as product leaders for generative AI products is that all the products that we did manage prior to generative AI products were deterministic. But large language models, large vision models, and generative AI models are non-deterministic by design. And instead of just trying to brute force our way of working and just still doing the same thing and expect it to work, we need a new way of working and a new set of considerations to take into account when we are building these non-deterministic products. And we need to think and realize that, again, for our deterministic products that we managed in the past, we would have a user input, would go through our code, and we would get a 100% predictable output, like in Google Docs or Slack. And in the middle, we had some products that were non-deterministic, but contained and were contained or highly structured, like our Instagram feeds or Uber or Netflix top 10 shows. And then now we have these large language model or large vision models that are non-deterministic products that for any given input, there can be multiple potential outputs, right? Like Notion AI, as an example, or YouTube AI music, or Google's generative search results. And there are three main things that really impact us as product leaders. One is around predictability. For deterministic products and non-deterministic products, the predictability is a big component of the difference between these two. For non-deterministic products, the outputs may change. You're on the same input, as you all know. The other thing is around user expectation management. For non-deterministic products, unpredictable outcomes can be quite dynamic and engaging, but the challenge is that it requires careful management of user experience and making sure that things still fit in our overall product offering and value proposition. And lastly, definitely last but not least, because it's a really important component, is quality assurance. There used to be a very different way of doing Q&A when we were building products for deterministic products. Now, QA and quality assurance is more challenging than ever before, because you cannot just have a set of finite number of test cases and think that we're good to go. The reality is that with non-deterministic products, it's more challenging to test and validate our products because of that variability and non-deterministic nature of these products. And because of that, our generative AI products require additional specifications that we need to think about. So when we're creating our product requirement documents, we need to do a few things differently. So the standard product requirement document that a lot of us use includes things like, the status of the document, an overview of what we are working on, what we want to develop, our business objectives and key performance indicators, the overall user journey, the assumptions that we're making or the assumptions that must be true for the product to work, a set of functional requirements that we have, a sort of success criteria, success metrics that we use to measure the success of our product, a set of dependencies that we need to account for within our product portfolio or within the product, compliance and legal, definitely super important, especially for highly regulated industries that some of us might be working in, and ultimately our go-to-market plan and go-to-market strategy around our sales plan, marketing plan, and how we're going to roll out the product. Now, the generative AI products, large language models and large vision models, also need to include more components. We need to also consider things like model requirements, which model to use. We need to think about context window. We need to think about latency, how that impacts our user experience. We need to think about fine-tuning capabilities, whether we need to do fine-tuning or not. We need to think about our data sources. Where are we going to get our training and feedback data from? How are we going to clean that data? How are we going to use that for further fine-tuning? What do we need to do in terms of prompt requirements, in terms of performance and functional requirements? That's a big part of the new products that we are building with large language model products and large vision products. We need to think about our AI user experience, right? So like the examples we're looking at together here, the way these experiences are developed and built are very different than traditional products that we've built. So we cannot just follow the same traditional way of UI and UX and expect that to work with this new paradigm, but rather we need to really think about how we can really fit this into our way of working and understand the differences of designing a great user experience for LLM powered and LVM powered products. And then we need to think about testing and measurement through a new lens, through a lens of non-deterministic nature of these products. How can we effectively optimize our generated outputs, how we can test them, how we can identify all the different parameters and different set of components that we need to test, how we need to test them. And then what are the risks associated to the biases and errors and false positives and false negatives that we're going to get? How are we going to eliminate? Sometimes we cannot completely remove them, but how can we at least reduce them? Or how can we find a set of guardrails that can help us to avoid running into those issues so that we don't end up generating wrong outputs, or sometimes making a really costly mistake of buying, let's say, a cryptocurrency or buying a stock for our customers at the wrong price or with the wrong information that can cause a big issue for us and our company because we misinformed our customers around what they were buying or how they were buying it. So again, thinking about this and considering it is more important than ever before for us as product leaders. And last but not least, there's a cost, massive cost associated to developing and building these LLM and LVM based products. And we need to think about that in terms of data acquisition, using these different models, whether it's from OpenAI or other vendors. We need to do some unit economics analysis and do some financial planning and projections to forecast our operational expenses with token usage at scale, different scale as we scale the product, and really think about how that might or might not impact the success of a product and the cost associated to delivering our product, which does impact our P&L, profit and loss statements as for our product line. So this is an example of what that can look like. For example, when we are building an LLM-powered product, we need to think about whether we are using an open or closed source model, what we need for a context window in terms of the volume of the data that we are letting into the prompt, what kind of fine-tuning capabilities we need in terms of latency and parameters. What do we need? Again, these are specifications that we didn't need before for traditional products, that as product leaders now we are responsible for working with our engineering and data science teams to define, to work with together, to intentionally design them and define them to deliver our product strategy as intended.